welcome back. Andy wrote a column about the Mets search for a general manager. Andy, is there even going to be a general manager search for the Mets?
Sounds like maybe not. It's interesting. So the idea when David Stearns was hired was he'd be the president of baseball ops. Billy Epler is going to be the GM. We know that Billy resigned that first week. And since then, they obviously haven't had a general manager. So I asked Stearns about it yesterday. And he said, I haven't decided what we're going to do yet. I've kind of gotten the vibe reporting around him with other sources that the Mets maybe were not going to search for a GM right away or appoint someone right away internally. He didn't say that they were not, but he said, I haven't decided. We'll figure it out in the offseason. He said there's a lot of different ways that he could delegate. He can either have a GM. He can give things to the different department heads. I'd say big picture, even more important than a GM, he has a lot of work to do just still putting together an organization. They need to settle on someone to run pro scouting. The person who's doing it now might end up being that person. They just moved on from their international guy. They have someone in place for player development, and Andy Green, who's doing a nice job. But they actually have quite a few analytics, too. They're looking to make a hire. So they have a lot of people in the organization who they need to hire. Sounds like general manager might not be front burner.
As long as somebody's in place to go get Juan Soto in the offseason, that's all that matters. So, okay, yeah. Good. All right, Zach, how do you think that the relationship between the front office and manager has evolved in recent years?
Well, I think you hear the big buzzword you always hear from today's general manager is collaboration. So I think because it's evolved to being a more collaborative role, that works across the entire organization, including the manager. And so what's often reported is really the only, the part where the GM is interacting with the manager and giving input to that manager. That's often a story out there. But I think it works the other way, too, now, where a GM is looking for various opinions, including the managers. And I think the reason for that is today's GM is sometimes overly focused on the long term, and a manager is obviously focused on, winning that game in that season. And so I think it's a good balance that you get a different perspective like that if you're a general manager.
I agree with that. I always thought this. I wanted to have a relationship with my general manager. So when we disagreed on something, we realized we were both on the same page with one goal, and that's to try to make the team better. So I always thought, you could get an argument, and when the argument was over, hey, we're going to go out and have dinner together. And I think, I think that's kind of gone by the wayside because the manager now is so focused on stuff that, and the general managers now today, there's so much more in depth on the data they've got to come up with to rank a player where they are. I'm not sure the manager has that kind of input anymore, even though I've always said this for long. We have a small fraternity as managers, and there's nothing wrong with, hey, what do you think about this player? Call that manager. We'll find out about him because the managers don't lie to each other. Again, so I think if that relationship is tight, I think the organization is much better off for it.
Take me back to the good old days. I do think it could be a balance of what Zach's saying, like the data and analytics and all that information, but you got to talk to the manager, especially in your particular case where you've been around the game your entire life. You can help, or calling another manager. Hey, what about this guy? As opposed to, oh, well, I know about this guy because he walked 18 times last year, or his exit velo was this. Like, there's got to be a better balance, and I think the game was better when managers had more of an input. Because they know, because they know the game better. No offense, but they know the game better because they played in it, they lived it, as opposed to the Ivy League guys who were just, analytical.